Let's get to the cost of living as well, because it's safe to say many across the country are feeling the pinch already, raising interest rates, with rising interest rates, I should say, and inflation, mortgage repayments skyrocketing, everyday items such as food and groceries going up. Joining us live now is Simon Welsh, the director of Redbridge Group. Simon, great to see you this morning. You're doing a lot of focus groups at the moment. Cost of living is, of course, coming up. They're not quite blaming the government voters yet, are they?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. It's really interesting. I mean, the stories we're hearing at the moment are heartbreaking. You know, people talking about their weekly budget's gone up $500, these sorts of figures. So we're really starting to see it hurt and bite now. But you're quite right. They're not blaming the government yet. I put on that their views are actually quite nuanced. So we talked to them about, what do you think's driving inflation? What do you think's driving these processes? And they talk about the war in Ukraine. They talk about global supply lines and the interruption through COVID and, the problems that are still lingering from that. They talk about corporate profiteering. But what is kind of unique and different right now is this real sense of unfairness around interest rate rises. So folk talk to us about, well, my wage hadn't gone anywhere, my household budget hadn't gone anywhere until inflation started to hit, and now I'm cutting back things, just trying to keep my head above water, and I feel like I'm the one that's paying the price for this. So one of the I think weirdest things that we're seeing in the focus groups right now is the name Phillip Lowe is coming up unprompted from participants. This is the first time I've ever seen that kind of recognition.
I mean, Glenn Stevens was probably the most well-known RBA governor, but now Phillip Lowe taking the mantle, but probably not a kind of prize that he wants, right? It's not complimentary.
It's not complimentary, and it's, as I say, it's certainly this sense of, where we understand this is a complex issue. There's complex drivers going on, but the one thing we don't feel is driving inflation is my household spending. I feel like I'm just trying to survive. I'm not sort of adding to the problem.
Okay, so when you're talking to focus groups and voters about inflation, and then it goes to, what can kind of ease that cost of living. Of course, it comes to government spending, how governments spend their money. But we've spoken about this in previous weeks. You're saying that the sugar hit, $250 payment, energy payment, like in New South Wales, it's been promised by the current government, not going to be followed through by Chris Minns if he wins the election. They're not necessarily popular. Are you picking that up this time around as well?
That's right, and this is sort of this sort of nuanced view. I mean, obviously people are thinking about this kind of stuff, right? It's real survival mode stuff at the moment. So they're worried. So there is a worry about sort of debt, and not in an immediate sense, but in the longer term. Who's going to be paying for that? My kids will be paying it for, sort of thing. So while they certainly don't attribute necessarily government spending to the inflation problem, which is interesting, but what they're saying is we want support from government, but we want it to be quite well targeted. So don't stop spending, please, but we want it to be well targeted, because we know down the track some muggins has got to pay for this, and it's probably going to be me. So global kind of, the Oprah Winfrey model, you get $250, you get $250, aren't that popular. And also because people look at it and go, well, $250, it's great, keeps me afloat for a week.
Yeah, right.
What happens the week after? So it's not the kind of political sort of benefit or booster that I think a lot of folk think it is.
All right, and what about the federal government? So is there a distinction being made there? Are they looking to the federal government? Is there kind of patience there on what the federal government can and can't do?
There is an absence of perception around a plan. I think this sort of upcoming budget for the government is going to be defining. It'll define, I think, the course and the narrative into the next election. So there's no sense of plan at the moment. There's just this sense of relentless being hit over the head by interest rate rises, and they're not picking up any sense of vision or a way forward. So I think this budget is going to be defining. If they can nail it, if they can nail the landing, I think that sets them up very, very well going to the next election. if it's another 12 months of more of the same, then I think Labor's going to have problems. They're setting up the problems now heading into that next election.
Okay, Simon Welsh, great to check in. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Laura.